What is up, bodyweight exercise fans? It's that time for the Q&A of the month. This is the last Q&A of this year. As I said in my last Q&A, I'll be doing this once every month, and you can ask me anything you want, either it's bodyweight related or other stuff. Keep in mind that I'll be putting a comment when it's time for the Q&A in the previous video, where I'll ask you questions and you can reply to that comment, and those are the questions that I'm going to focus the most on. So every month when it's about the end of the month, keep your eyes open for a comment below my last video, where I'll be where you can post all of your questions, so to make sure that you'll get your question answered. So let's dive in quickly, because it's starting to rain a little bit. I'm gonna put my hoodie on, and this camera is supposed to be waterproof, but this tablet where I have my questions isn't. So let's get started. First question is from Fayazul. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. And your question is doing 3 sets of pull-ups, push-ups, squats or lunges per workout good for building muscle? Well, let's have a look. First of all, you have a pulling, a pushing, and a lower body multi-joint exercise here, which is a pretty good start. You're getting a whole body workout, which I'm a big advocate. Always train full body. It's a lot better for making consistent progress. I'll analyze that in a different video, but let's focus on the questions today. And this is a pretty good start. But it only is going to get you so far. So for a beginner, until you're about close to an intermediate phase, it's a good starting point. But slowly you want to add more different movement patterns, so you can hit your muscles from different angles, get different stimulus if you want to continue building muscle in a more aesthetic calisthenics physique, as the one we talked about in the previous video, where we discussed movement patterns. If you didn't see that one, make sure you see it. So good start for sure, but you want to add different angles. Specifically for your push, you want at least a horizontal. Here you have push-ups, but also like a more decline angle for hitting more of your broader spectrum of your chest muscle fibers. With rows, with pulling, again, you want also like a horizontal row. And just watch the previous video on movement patterns and you get a pretty good idea. But yeah, pretty good start, I would say, if that's your question. Moving on. This one is from the Czech Crusader, who says, should you breathe in the down or up movement? Does it even matter? So what the Czech Crusader here asks is, do you have to, does it matter if you inhale when you are pulling yourself up or when you're lowering yourself down? What's the best way to inhale and exhale during an exercise? To answer your question quickly, it doesn't really matter as long as you inhale and exhale during every repetition. Now, the classic advice here is inhaling during the easier part of the exercise and exhaling during the difficult part. For example, let's say when you're doing pull-ups, when you're pulling yourself up, that's the difficult part. You want to be exhaling, ideally through pursed lips, so you can control the flow of the air and let it out in a balanced way. And when you're lowering yourself down, which is the easier part of the exercise, you want to be inhaling. So I hope that helps. Moving on to the next question. This is from Benjamin, who says, what about setting a timer for a certain amount of time and trying to get as many reps as possible within that time? Would it be a good way to build muscle with bodyweight exercises? Could be kind of similar to a very long rest pause set. So the reason I'm not a big fan of that is, and that's like a strategy with a more athletic strategy, let's say with CrossFit. They do a pretty similar thing there. And the reason I don't like this so much is because when you set a timer, you focus a lot more on getting reps, and either you want it or no, your focus leaves your form. You don't focus on your form so much, and you focus more on getting more reps, which it also takes away from your mind to muscle connection. So it's difficult, when you're trying to do a lot of reps fast, to focus on working on your mind to muscle connection and using good form. These are two things that I always advocate here. These are keys for hypertrophy, getting bigger and staying healthy in the long term, keeping your joints inflammation free and all of that. So I hope that covers your question. Moving on. Okay, here we are. This one is from Henrik Moller, who says, I'm a semi-pro musician, guitarist. Will intense bodyweight training stiffen my hands or fingers? Thanks. Interesting question. Also good timing, since I started playing guitar about 6 months ago. And I'm quite excited about it, 6 or 7 months. So here's what I've noticed is the only times that my fingers feel stiff are when I try to practice guitar just after a really intense training session, especially a training session where like doing circuits and where you have a lot of metabolic stress and your body is it's pretty fatigued and and pretty sore and all that. So that's the only problem I've noticed with practicing guitar, because it's difficult to have good control of your fingers when your whole body is really taxed. Other than that, if you rest well and if you make sure that you structure your guitar practice and your workouts a little bit further away from each other, I don't think you'll have any problems. I even know some musicians that work out, so it shouldn't be really a problem for you. Next question is from Fukazepe, who says, can you please make a thorough video about stretching? I saw your videos about it, read also your book, but I'd like to make a more precise video tutorial about it, something in general, like a demonstration. Thanks in advance and have great holidays with people you love. Thank you so much. Same to you, Fukazepe. Stretching routine. Stretching for me is not a big part of my exercise routine. I prefer mobility routines. I do some stretching for lower body. I think there's value for the lower body. I've mentioned my ideas on stretching for the rest of the body, but and another reason I like this is also for the stress relief. I find that stretching relaxes me a lot. So if I get more into it later on, if I want to do some more relaxing stuff, include more relaxing stuff in my training routine, I'll let you know. I'll make a video. Next question. This is from David Gutierrez, who says, what are your thoughts on Old School Calisthenics and their training method? They advocate crazy high volume as the best way to build muscle. So I don't know Old School Calisthenics. This is like an online project, I guess, or something like that. You say that they advocate crazy high volume training. And one of the things that we've seen in research the last years is that training volume, that's why also reason I'm a big advocate of it lately, that's why I talk about so much. Training volume is the number one driver for muscle growth. When you have quality sets, if you have quality sets, of course, then training volume is super important for building muscle. That's why you need to structure the way you train to keep track of your training volume and increase it through time blocks, through microcycles and macrocycles. I talked about this in a previous video. I'm going to link it above in case some of you want to learn more about that if you missed it. But based on that, I would say their advice sounds good when it comes to training volume. Of course, the more it isn't the case that the more you do, the merrier. You need to balance things out. You need deload weeks. You need maintenance weeks. You can't always be going really hard. You can't be doing like 1,000 sets every week and expect yourself not to get burned out. So having a balance and using the guidelines I gave you in my training volume video will help you out. So keep that in mind. I'm gonna also check them out so I can see what they're up to, see what other stuff they recommend, and maybe I'll give you some advice on their program, on their routine in the future again. Next, Daniel Carl asks, I'm an advanced beginner, progressing well, but still no progressing with pull-ups. I have great form with other exercises and I can do higher reps, but I feel I can progress So yeah, his basic problem is that although he's doing pretty good with most exercises, he's not able to master the pull-up. You know, he's not able to do a lot of reps with pull-ups. Now, pull-ups are one of the most difficult exercises, the most difficult bodyweight exercises. Why? Because you have to lift your whole weight. You know, there isn't another part of your body that's touching the floor when you're doing pull-ups. So you know the weight, you're just lifting your whole weight 100%. Pull-ups and handstand push-ups, for example, are two exercises where you have this, and that's why they're super difficult. What can you do here? My advice is to start doing some assisted band training. So get a band and start finding resistance that can help you do around 12 to 15 repetitions, so you can start working on high reps, and slowly decrease, either remove the band and see if you can do more, or decrease the resistance of the band, get like a lighter band. That's the best way to progress with pull-ups, also the friendliest way for your joints or elbows. You know, you don't want to go really hard suddenly with pull-ups. It's, for some people, it's often the reason of pain, the reason they get injured. So resistant bands, if you can afford them, really good. One of the best ways to increase your pull-up repetitions. Moving on, let's see, why isn't this working? Okay, Sebastian Cuirarte says, been trying out the basic routine in Homemade Muscle. So he's talking about my free beginners guide. I'm seeing a lot of consistent progress. How could I incorporate barbell squats into your bodyweight routine? So well, what I would advocate here is just replace the lower body exercises, the lunges, with barbell squats. You know, of course, barbell squats tax your whole body, because you're stabilizing the weight if you're lifting a lot of weight, also with your arms, your back, and all that. So you might want to make like a small twitch in decreasing a little bit, like one set per upper body movement, body part, for movement patterns, or do like one less set of pulling, one less set of pushing, if you find that it's pretty difficult in the beginning to respond well. Or start with barbell squats. So start with your barbell squats, that way your body will be fresh, and add your upper body exercises after that, instead of having your lower body in the middle of the plan. Last question. My tablet isn't responding. I hope the rain didn't mess it up. Can you explain why you think 1 to 2 reps shy of failure is good for heavy work? What are you basing this? So Boxer Fencer here says, in the previous video I mentioned, we talked about going to failure. Check it out if you didn't see it yet. And I said that with lower rep ranges, when you're working anywhere between like 4 and about 10 repetitions, you want to go shy to failure 1 or 2 reps. So let's say you get all your sets, you had all your sets, first set you get all your reps, second set you get all your reps, and in your last set, let's say your third set is your last set, I advise going to failure, specifically momentary muscle failure, which means not being able to do another repetition with good form. So check out the previous video if you didn't see it, so you understand what we're talking about. But the reason I'm recommending 1 to 2 reps shy to failure is because if you're failing a lot earlier, like 4 to 5 repetitions, that means that you're super exhausted, and you probably didn't have enough energy to get enough of reps in the previous set. So I always recommend like reaching failure in your last set, not failing like all your sets. You need some more stability in most of your training part, and the best way to go to failure is going to failure in your last set, and that's the reason I recommend 1 to 2 repetitions shy of failure, because that's the best way to make sure that you're getting a stable number of repetitions in your previous sets. This is important also because you'll keep your training volume steady this way. High intensity is good, but you also need to get enough of training volume, which doesn't only mean sets, it also means repetitions. So that was all for today. It's starting to rain more, so I'm not going to do any more questions. I hope you enjoyed this video. Oh, one more thing. My book will be released. My new book will be released during the first 1 to 3 days of the coming year, of the first days of 2018, and I'll share. I don't know. I'll probably make a video here, but I'm definitely gonna send a newsletter. Make sure you subscribe to my newsletter to be informed, because there's gonna be a special offer during the first days of its release. That was all, and until next time, keep on training.